Beep, 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 beep. How you doing? Hey, here we go again. I've got an interesting article here today for you from Aporia, Aporia magazine .com, written by Bo Weingard and Ben Weingard. Now, it's a long article, right? So be warned, but it's about psychotherapy, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. So we're going to take a brief look at the beginning of it, and then you can obviously go and do your own work. It's from June 2023, and occasionally I get these things that people go, "Have you seen this?" And I've missed it for some reason, and no wonder, is it? I mean, who can keep up with it all? With all the lunacy that's going on, who honestly can keep up? Can you? Liar. So this attacks a particular sphere in a sort of strange way, and it's a very interesting take on it. Now, I, as you know, I'm an educator by profession. I've been in education for many, many years. That's why I still have my warrior teachers. Some of you which aren't one yet, right? Come on the winning mindset. We're going to create some warriors. The winning mindset, creating warriors. So I know for a fact that those of us that work in informal education, i.e., I'm talking outside schools, we are beset with cowboys, right? If you look at what's going on in your average company, you know, big corporate company now, they've got these blokes in dresses coming in and talking nonsense at people. They'll use coercive tactics in their learning and training to get their employees to comply. They'll use psychometrics and invasive testing to find out whether you're pure. So we've got cowboys in every industry, is the point I'm making, including mine, right? Cowboys is one thing. Let's see what Ben and Bo have to say, which sounds like a 1970s children's TV program. What do Bo and Ben? It was Bill and Ben, wasn't it? The Flower Pot Men. It was them, wasn't it? We and all that business. Not Bo. Yeah, it was Bill and Ben, not Bo and Ben. They begin with a quote from T.S. Eliot, the quote being, "Humankind cannot bear very much reality." Interesting quote there. Interesting quote. It's true, I think, for most people. It says here, and this is really talking about filmic representations of psychotherapy in this beginning here. They're calling it the psychotherapy myth. Psychotherapist founders were spectacularly wrong about mental illness, and today a psychotherapist might be little more than an expensive placebo. Challenging there from the beginning with this great article. From Ordinary People, brilliant film, to Good Will Hunting, brilliant film. From Law and Order to Shrinking, from Woody Allen to Prince Harry, from the chatter at cocktail parties to the advertisements on popular podcasts, therapy pervades modern culture. And with it, a myth. The psychotherapy myth. Like other myths, the psychotherapy myth is not the product of one or even a few geniuses. Though Sigmund Freud may be its Homer and its Hesiod, it lingers over a culture like a miasma around a swamp. We breathe it from birth. It is so ubiquitous that it is virtually invisible. Indeed, many who have absorbed it and whose worldviews are shaped by it would not explicitly endorse it and may even explicitly reject it. It's worth mentioning here at this point that Frank Furedi, fine writer, fine thinker, wrote a book many years ago called Therapy Cultures. Predicted all this. I went to see him read an excerpt of it years ago when we were both far younger men, frankly. So the chief content of this myth is that people often cannot process or work through adverse events and traumas, abuses, breakups, firings, humiliations, and sometimes even repress the memories because they are too painful for the psyche to assimilate. But repressed or poorly processed traumas do not simply subside, they fester and they spread, causing further psychological pain and maladaptive behaviours. Time alone, it seems, does not heal psychic wounds. But if the sufferer works through the trauma, potentially recovering repressed or degraded memories, she can understand and perhaps even eradicate the sources of her misery. Thus, the talking cure is indispensable, and a stoic embrace of silent suffering, once lauded, is not only a species of misguided masculinism, but is inimical to mental health. In other words, the control of one's emotional bowels is seen as a masculine, toxic part of patriarchy. That's what they're saying here. The ability to control one's emotional bowels. The psychotherapy myth is often coupled with, though sometimes contradicted by, another pervasive myth, the brain chemical imbalance myth. According to this myth, depression is not caused by repressed trauma. At least that is not the essence of depression, but rather by chemical imbalance, perhaps especially by an imbalance of serotonin. The talking cure might work, but only if it restores chemical equilibrium, and often therapy is not enough. Antidepressants are needed. These alleviate despair, lethargy, and the other myriad symptoms of depression by increasing available serotonin and other relevant neurotransmitters. So what's happening here is a broadside for therapy and for psychiatry, for psychotherapy and psychiatry. A broadside, because psychiatry deals with medication generally. There is a medication, there is a prescription, and then we've got the broadside against psychotherapy, which is the tell me about your childhood stuff, right? Interesting, isn't it? See? In the past 20 years, scholars and concerned intellectuals have subjected this brain chemical imbalance myth to withering criticism. There's a good word, withering. Noting that the widespread view that low serotonin levels cause depressions is likely erroneous, that many of the pharmaceutical commercials about depression are simplistic and misleading at best, and that we have good reason to be sceptical of popular antidepressants and the model of depression that motivates and justifies them. Scholars have assailed this imbalance myth because they think it is pernicious, wasting time and resources, and potentially leading to the consumption of habit-forming and ineffective drugs whose side effects are often unpleasant. But they've been less energetic in attacking the psychotherapy myth, so the two myths there, psychiatry, psychotherapy. They have been less vociferous to a degree in attacking the psychotherapy myth, perhaps because they believe it is less dangerous, less dishonest, less propagandistic. After all, what could be so bad about talking to a trained adult about one's miseries and insecurities? But the psychotherapy myth might well be equally harmful and more insidious. It may create iatrogenic illness. This, by the way, is my belief. It may create iatrogenic illness by encouraging people to see themselves as fragile and incapable of dealing with the slings and arrows of everyday life. I was tempted to say outrageous fortune there, but I didn't. Everyday life. It may promote, even if inadvertently, the belief in repressed memories, which is nonsense. Right, a belief that has ruined many lives and sundered many relationships through false accusations. It may inculcate an atomistic view of humans and human suffering, diverting investment from stable institutions and strong communities to expensive therapists who are ultimately little more than glorified social support. And it may be kind of social cosmetic used to colour the pallid face of a diseased society, distracting us from the psychological toll inflicted by years of dissolving communities and declining social capital. I thoroughly agree with the author's conclusion. We were talking about this with the warrior teachers the other night, you know. The way the world needs to look, the way our communities need to look, the way we do what we do. The vast majority of the stuff that is being seen as a therapeutic problem is actually an educational problem. It is actually a problem of socialization as well. For years, the therapeutic model has held sway, and I think what this article is doing, and there's a lot more to it, so please do go and read it, is saying it's time to look back and see whether or not this is a thing. I've said it all along, and I still maintain that trans ideation, gender identity, queer theory, all the LGBTQ crap is an educational problem. It is not a psychological one. That the first port of call for, the 12-year-old comes up and says, I think I'm a boy. I've already said before, the backlash should be so adult, so alien to that 12-year-old's understanding of the world, that it shocks them immediately. And then they go on, then right, so now you're going to go and do some learning. Now you're going to find out why you shouldn't believe in this. Here's John Money, here's the perverts behind this, here's the Beaumont Society. Right, here's Judith Butler, and let's break down the barrier between adult and child, right? It's an educational problem prior to being a therapeutic one. The triage at the very beginning should be educational. But you let me know what you think, as usual, okay? I think it's a fascinating piece, and I do hope you enjoy it. My thanks to Bo and Ben. Bo and Ben. Which should definitely be a 1970s children's television programme. Go away. See you later.